Our top story this hour. An investigation by the Indian Express newspaper has revealed that China has been tracking important Indians from various fields including politics, business, sports and media. The list includes WION's editor-in-chief Sudhir Chaudhary, who has been targeted over WION's critical and incisive coverage of the country. China has been monitoring over 10,000 influential Indians as part of what is known as hybrid warfare. The list includes prominent people like Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Ramnath Kovind and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Leading opposition leader and Congress Party's interim president Sonia Gandhi is also being monitored. The list also includes West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde and Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat. A Chinese firm called Zhenhua uses non-military tools to harvest influential Indians' data. This includes scraping information from web and social media platforms. Data is also mined by keeping a track of research papers and news articles. An important part of the surveillance is building family trees, which means that the target's relatives are also monitored. The question is, why is China doing this and why it's a matter of concern? The monitoring is a part of threat intelligence and comes amid heightened border tensions between India and China. China has been trying to get a hold of strategic information. Earlier, India banned more than 100 Chinese apps over security risks. Let us also tell you about the Chinese firm Zhenhua, which is at the forefront of this cyber espionage. It is a technology based in the Chinese city of Shenzhen and was registered as a company in 2018. It has 20 centers across the world and its clients include Chinese military and the government. The firm took down its website on September 9th. Zhenhua has refused to answer the Indian Express's questions, saying that they touched upon its trade secrets. However, a source in the Chinese embassy in New Delhi told the Indian Express that China has not asked its companies to provide or collect data. Joining us for more on this is Robert Potter, who is a Canberra-based cybersecurity, tech and data expert who worked with the team to verify the electronic antecedents of the data set. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. You were engaged in verifying the electronic antecedents of the data set. What were your findings and why is it a cause of concern?
Thank you very much for having me, and it's been really interesting to work on this project with Vaide and the team at the India Express to bring this important information to light. So when we first received the information, we only received part of it because we wanted to make sure that it was worth our time in restoring it. We then worked for 3 months to restore a version of the data to the point where it could be searched and studied by journalists for the purposes of future publication. It's a very interesting data set in as much as it's a very ambitious data set and sits in alignment with the objectives of the company, who talks about using it for the purposes of engaging in hybrid warfare and political influence operations.
And how is Beijing exploiting data available on the internet for surveillance and profiling?
So it's possible to scrape open source Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok data and use that to create a profile of a person. This information in this case was also combined with data from anti-money laundering systems. For example, some people are registered as special interest people or relatives or close associates of various important people. They're tagged through those systems, and all of that data is put together to create a profile of the human, political, information and technology terrain of a country to make it easier to understand and influence.
All right. And how do you think this will influence how China impacts the country and its relations with India?
Well, I can't imagine that it's going to do China a lot of good. That being said, though, as China and India mature into advanced, capable economies with role to play on the global stage, a degree of that comes with scrutiny. So, for example, the intelligence programs of the United States are generally open to a fair amount of criticism on any given day. And I think if China wants to play in the top ring with the biggest countries in the world, they can expect this sort of scrutiny to come their way.
And going forward, how do you think such kind of profiling can be prevented? What do you think can be done for that?
Well, I think the first thing we want to look at is just how the data was exploited. So just because you give that data to Facebook or Twitter doesn't mean you've agreed to share that with another party. So what made something like Cambridge Analytica so scandalous wasn't that they were mining people's messages or anything like that, but they were exploiting the information that people were sharing on social media for the purposes of influencing them. A really great example of how this has played out already in the past was Russia's attempts to influence the 2016 election using Facebook and hybrid warfare. It's exactly that sort of technology that this company talks quite openly about doing in its mission statement as a corporate entity working, as it claims, on behalf of the Chinese government.
Okay, now just for more clarity on this, what do you think it means? Do you think it's an attack at this point? There is global pattern developing, emerging from this probe of China targeting influential people. How do you assess that?
Well, it seems to be a global effort. It covers people from Namibia to North Korea. There's extensive profiling of people in every major place on planet Earth. Everywhere where there is power, this company attempts to collect information. Wherever they want to build Belt and Road projects, they're going to start collecting this sort of information. We found profiles on family members of people in countries as small as Papua New Guinea in the Pacific Islands and Vanuatu and Fiji. So India is, of course, a component of this because it's a powerful country that sits on a border with China.
To what extent can they access data, and how do you think they are being able to do this?
Well, a lot of this stuff you can take illicitly. It's possible to copy data from Twitter, Facebook, Crunchbase, LinkedIn, and contain that and copy that data and send it to China. Now, that being said, there are things we should be doing to strengthen our security of those platforms. It shouldn't be so easy to steal this much information. But that being said, we also have to accept that there's a certain risk because the Chinese government doesn't seem to acknowledge the same norms of privacy and people the way that democratic countries like Australia and India do.
And I know you briefly mentioned this before, but what do you think they are trying to achieve by doing this?
Well, the company talks very openly about this. Their CEO posts regularly on WeChat about his intention to change political opinion. He says that there's no such thing as truth. You can make it up if you influence the information the right way. Now, I disagree with that, but that being said, this is a very important way for countries that want to shape opinion in other countries to operate, and it's going to become an increasing component of China's landscape going forward.
All right. Mr. Potter, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We will definitely keep tracking this very closely. Thank you.